Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's a privilege to address you today on a topic of such strategic importance, rare and critical minerals. These resources are not just essential commodities, they are the foundation of modern global economy, powering clean energy technologies, digital transformation, and critical industries such as aerospace, defense, healthcare, to name a few. Kazakhstan has one of the world's largest reserves of rare and critical metals. According to the World Bank, the country possesses over 5,000 unexplored deposits of rare metals, with an estimated total value exceeding 46 trillion US dollars. Recognizing this opportunity, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has underscored the importance of rare metals as a new oil and a key driver of the technological future of the country. With the rapid acceleration of green energy technologies, digitalization, and electric mobility, the global market for those resources is expected to grow 8% annually through 2035. At the same time, geopolitical tensions and supply chain vulnerabilities have highlighted the urgent need for supply diversification. Kazakhstan is well positioned to become a trusted alternative supplier, reducing reliance on a concentrated market and enhancing the security of global industry players. However, like many resource nations, our challenge is not merely possessing these materials, but unlocking their full potential through exploration, efficient extraction, sustainable processing, and high-value production. To address these challenges and opportunities, the government of Kazakhstan has launched a comprehensive plan for the development of rare and critical metals for 2024-2028, focusing on four key pillars. First one, expanding the resource base through investing in large-scale geological exploration and mapping to assess the full extent of our rare metal reserves. Second, advanced processing and value-added manufacturing by modernizing existing and establishing new processing facilities focused on mining and metallurgy enterprises to reduce raw material exports and increase high-value production. Third, strengthening international collaboration and investment through partnering with leading technology providers and research institutions for knowledge transfer and innovation, and encouraging foreign direct investment and public-private partnership for mineral exploration. Fourth, building a transparent and competitive market by way of establishing a clear regulatory framework for rare and critical metals to attract international investors, and creating a market-driven pricing mechanism for rare metals in Kazakhstan, aligned with global best practices. To address these tasks, the existing infrastructure of the Astana International Financial Center could play a major role through facilitating foreign direct investments, offering innovative financing mechanisms tailored to resource extraction and processing projects, and promoting sustainable mining and responsible supply chain practices in line with the global ESG standards. Just for example, last week, the Astana International Exchange successfully launched trading international renewable energy certificates, enabling companies to certify the use of renewable energy. This creates a critical advantage for Kazakhstan's rare metals industry, as it allows mining and processing companies to credibly demonstrate carbon-neutral practices, making Kazakh metal more attractive to ESG-conscious global buyers. Kazakhstan stands at a pivotal moment by combining international expertise, advanced technology adoption, and a well-structured industrial policy. Kazakhstan can transfer its rare earth reserves into a globally competitive and sustainable industry. I hope that today's panel session with our esteemed colleagues from leading international companies and government entities will allow us to gain a deeper understanding of the industry and ways of increasing Kazakhstan competitiveness through the international expertise. I hope that, the panel sessions will be interactive, will be interesting. So let's start. Thank you for your attention.
We are pleased to begin our first session, Rare and Critical Metals, Global Perspectives and Local Opportunities. This session will be moderated by Mr.Yuri Savguira, PhD, Senior Engagement Manager, Hajj. We now invite our esteemed speakers to take their seats on stage. Mr. Sharkhan Iran, Vice Minister of Industry and Construction of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Mr. Rinaldo Jeanty, Associate Assistant Deputy Minister, Lands and Minerals Sector at Natural Resources Canada. Mr. Pini Althaus, Founding Partner at Cove Capital. Mr. Vasileios Tsianos, VP Corporate Development at Neo Performance Materials. Mr. Conrad Blake, Managing Director, Minerals at Hatch. Ms. Madalina Ivanica, Deputy Head of Unit, DG, Grow at European Commission.
It's definitely working.
Does this one work? All right. Welcome, everyone. Sorry for the little technical difficulty. I'm pleased to be here and I'm pleased to welcome all of you. This is our plenary session where we are hoping to explore an interesting and incredibly relevant subject around critical minerals. It doesn't matter what news channel you watch. Everybody is probably familiar and understand how important critical minerals and rare earth metals are. Thank you for the organizers and the sponsors for putting together this event, for inviting me, and probably most importantly, for being able to invite such a wonderful and diverse group of panelists. If I can have a round of applause for the panelists. When I was first asked to help out, I thought what was incredibly unique that we're going to have such a diverse representation from government officials across Canada, European Union and Kazakhstan, as well as representation of private business, both here and in Europe. So I'm very, very excited to be here and hopefully you find this panel interesting. Given that we're focusing in Kazakhstan, I think a first question in mind that I would really much like to ask Minister Sharkhan is, what do you envision the future state for Kazakhstan around critical minerals and rare earth metals? And more importantly, what do you think is going to take us to get there? What are some of the challenges and how do you foresee solving them?
My English is not good as my colleagues. Let me help my интерпретер. Касательно создания замкнутой цепочки в области редкоземельных элементов, мы видим следующим образом. Необходимо создать замкнутую цепочку от разведки полезных ископаемых редкоземельных элементов до их качественной обработки, переработки, создания продукции с высокой добавленной стоимостью.
As for the rare metals, we are planning to establish a closed circuit, closed chain, starting from exploration, surveying, extraction, and deep processing of rare earth metals and critical materials. This is our envision.
Сегодня мы выявили порядка 20 перспективных проявлений РЗМ, редкоземельных металлов, элементов, которые требуют достаточно больших уровня капиталовложений для того, чтобы создать более высокий уровень предела. Для этого, первое, необходимо увеличить инвестиции в геологоразведку. Все-таки эти проявления находятся на начальном этапе, и достаточно большие капиталовложения требуются для их качественной обработки для того, чтобы уже выйти на уровень качественной добычи и переработки соответствующей.
In the meantime, we distinguish 20 the most important critical minerals which require additional geological survey. And for this purpose, we require extensive financing and investments in order to ensure deep processing of these critical materials and rare earth metals. And this is what we're looking for.
Необходимо достаточно уровень квалификации. Для этого как раз мы приглашаем и участвуем на таких важных мероприятиях, как PDAC, поучаствовать в разработке наших месторождений. Нам нужна квалификация, нам нужны новые технологии.
And for this purpose, we are looking for advanced technologies, better qualifications, and that's why we are participating in this event, PDAC, to attract new technologies, new qualifications, to take part in exploration of rare earth metal deposits on the territory of Kazakhstan.
Я заверяю, что у Казахстана есть достаточно большой потенциал именно в направлении редкоземельных элементов. В этой связи я вас всех приглашаю к сотрудничеству. Всю необходимую информацию я и моя команда готовы предоставить в полном объеме, без каких-либо ограничений, для того, чтобы вы ее обработали, и мы готовы перейти к практической части совместного сотрудничества.
I would like to assure you that Kazakhstan has a very good potential for rare earth metals, and my team is prepared to provide you with all the necessary information without any limitations, so your technical teams can process this information about our rare earth deposits, and then we can move further to practical steps.
Для этого мы уже третий год участвуем в PDAC посредством формирования нашего национального павильона. Всю необходимую информацию можно получить оттуда, либо непосредственно обращаясь ко мне и к моим коллегам. Спасибо.
And for this purpose, we set up our Kazakhstan pavilion, and we've been here already for 3 years. So you can get any necessary information at this pavilion, or you can contact me directly or my colleagues at the ministry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you for highlighting some of the opportunities and potential. What I think would be a logical transition for us is to understand how other countries can work together. And in that light, I would like to address the question both to Mr. Jeanty and Ms. Ivanica. How does your respective country think about this space of critical minerals and rare earth metals, specifically that pertains to a strategy with international focus, thinking about supply chains, technology development, and above all, collaboration? If you could maybe discuss a little bit, I think everybody here would be internally grateful. Thank you.
Should I start? I should start. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you for the question. I'm looking forward to having these discussions with my esteemed panel here. So from a Canadian perspective, we launched the critical mineral strategy back in 2022. The strategy itself is backed by nearly $4 billion, and a key pillar of the strategy is to be able to develop international partnerships. And the way that we look at this is that, for example, with Kazakhstan, we have a common understanding when it comes to strong ESG standards. So for that purpose, I think there's opportunities for us to work together and for us to build on those opportunities. In addition with that, within Natural Resources Canada, we have the Geological Survey of Canada. It's an institution that's been around for over 176 plus years. What we bring in terms of expertise is the ability for geoscientists to really work together and to offer that expertise and to provide any type of opportunities to work for us to work together alongside each other. What I would say as well is that 40% of the world's publicly listed mining and mineral exploration companies are in Canada. So I do see some great opportunities for us to be able to build partnerships and to have agreements with folks. The critical minerals strategy also has a $1.5 billion critical mineral infrastructure fund. And that fund is basically used for pre-construction and development of infrastructure projects to support critical minerals domestically. But we don't just stop there. We want to partner with folks that are like-minded. We want to be able to develop agreements. We see what the geopolitical context is at this particular juncture. So I do see that there's opportunities for us to work collaboratively together because we bring expertise and we can see that Canada is at the forefront with the technologies that we offer, and our domestic partners are ready to be able to partner with all of you.
Thank you. And maybe perhaps if from the European point of view, you could both contrast similarities in strategy and then also maybe point things that are different. I think that will be very neat to see.
Yes, with pleasure. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for having us here. And the European Union in particular. I'm from the European Commission, and you know very well that in the EU we have been working hard on the sector, on the critical mineral sectors, to develop and to have in place a legislative framework. And we do have now the Critical Raw Materials Act, which covers the international aspects. One of the elements of our Critical Raw Materials Act is how to diversify our supplies, because we are strongly dependent on single suppliers in Europe. So we wanted to look a little bit further and see where the supplies can come from outside the single suppliers. And we set ourselves some ambitious targets to reduce these dependencies and to have no more than 65% coming from one single country. And in order to do that, we have been developing important partnerships with countries around the world. And Kazakhstan is one of our strategic partnership countries. We have signed a strategic partnership with Kazakhstan in 2022. And since then, we've been working very intensely to develop this partnership and to make it, to deliver concrete results. What we do in Europe and in the European Commission is to really build our partnership on 5 pillars that are delivering benefits for the EU, but also for the partner country. One of the pillars, and it was mentioned a little bit earlier by Mr. Baktrov when he presented, is how to build a strong business environment, how to identify together projects, and then how to make them in practice. So that's our first pillar, building and finding, identifying projects that we can work together on. The second is how to cooperate in research and innovation. It's so important that we have, and we are working towards innovative technologies, techniques nowadays, that will put the mining sector, but not only the processing and refining and the recycling sector up there at forefront. So we are in partnership with our strategic partners on bringing together the research institutes and working together. The third pillar is how to support the infrastructure around the projects, right? So you need these flanking measures to have a project working. You need infrastructure, transport, energy, digital. So we are supporting this with Global Gateway, and this is the financial assistance for external partners to build this infrastructure around the projects that we find that are important. And then we also support development on skills, trainings, capacity building in the partner countries, because we want to have partners for cooperation, and we want to have skilled people that are capable of working in the processing and the refining plants in the country. So we are developing local value addition. We want the country to go up the value chain internally and to develop further. And we also look together how we can improve and going up on the ESG when it comes to ESG standards, and that's the 5th pillar of our partnership. So we have as we call a 360 view approach, a holistic approach on how we partner with our countries, with the partner countries. And I can say that with Kazakhstan in particular, we've been working together on data, geological data, on mapping and exploration. We've been identifying, as I mentioned, projects together and we've been strengthening cooperation between businesses and the governments. We had a business mission from the Kazakhstan company coming to Brussels last December, and by this we are aiming to build strong supply chains between Europe and Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Mr. Jeanty and Ms. Savanica. Appreciate the insight. One of the common themes that I sort of keep on hearing here is focus on technology. Now, it is no surprise that this industry is not necessarily the most speedy around technology adoption and taking on additional risk. And that largely has to do with already the pre-existing risk, starting from the moment you decide to export to the moment you start to get money back. I mean, that's part of how it works. What I'm really keen to hear, and Conrad, I think that you're in a great position to comment. You've seen technology development happening with various entities. You're having a broader view. So what does technology development look like for critical minerals and rare earth? What does collaboration look like? How do we potentially fund it? And what kind of timeline can someone anticipate from the lab to the point that we're able to commission something?
Thanks, Yuri. I think, you know, everybody you have a birthright for these minerals that's in your country, in Kazakhstan, and a key driver for you is to develop these responsibly. And often when we hear responsible development of, you think environmental, you think social, you think all of that, but there's a really big responsibility on the teams to develop technology that actually suits and are relevant for that particular asset that you're making available to the investor, you know, on behalf of your people. And, you know, just like Yuri said, I mean, mining projects are really complex. They are high capital projects that are complex, you know, often starting with the geology all the way to beneficiation. And mining houses or mining project owners are often reluctant to add additional risk to that mix by being, you know, early adopters of new technologies. They prefer to be followers. So, you know, if it's proven, great. And also the people that put up the money to develop these massive projects, you know, they look at it and, can you please give us the lowest possible risk option, you know, for us to make a return. But with rare earths and critical minerals in general, because we're trying to divide this as big momentum around diversifying a sustainable supply chain, I think it gives us an opportunity to be catching up. And there's no secret, you know, that the West haven't developed as quickly as the East in terms of developing the technology to beneficiate these minerals. But it gives us a unique opportunity to not having to just slightly improve an existing technology, but to stand back and say, clean slate, guys, you know, we've got, you know, there's some of my colleagues here with PhDs in rare earth beneficiation sitting in the audience, and you can go to them and say, like, listen, if this was your asset and your grandmother's money, how would we do this, you know, responsibly? And that takes partnership. It takes partnership, not just between, you know, yourselves and the asset owner, but take partnership and everybody that's going to contribute to that solution. And it's a trusted partnership. You know, we have developed a unicorn for a tier 1 client fairly recently, where it's never done before. It's fantastic, green technology. And we did it from a desktop study to commissioning in 18 months. So it doesn't have to be a multi-decade approach to developing new technology. It can be done quickly, but it can only happen in an environment where people trust each other and work together. And I'm pleased to hear that people are investing in infrastructure, because that's often, you know, you can develop the best plant, but these things are normally not next to great infrastructure. You know, if you can help the asset owners in providing, unlocking infrastructure to their investment, it makes our lives definitely much easier.
And maybe just a quick follow-up around investment. How do we make that a sustainable business around both developing the technology, but then actually having maybe enough cash so that it actually turns into an operation?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, good question. You know, I think, you know, it depends on who the asset owner is. You know, if you have a tier 1 company with deep pockets, this is probably much easier, and they fund that themselves. We often, in this space, we're seeing a lot of sort of newer companies come and secure assets, and they have got the innovation DNA to make it happen. But they often, they're always fundraising, And fundraising can probably be broken up into two big parts. You need money to be able to go and drill and get samples and get that to a lab and then get really clever people to sit around and see what we're going to do to make this a reality, technology-wise. But also, they need to be able to sustain themselves during that process. And they need two buckets of money, one to pay the suppliers and clever people to help them. But the other one is to get a really clever, dedicated team on board on their side. They need time. Often what we see is, people are making rash decisions because they're running out of funds, they're running out of time to get this dream off the ground. So I think helping them two ways, making infrastructure available like laboratories, really cool research that I think Canada and the Saskatchewan Research Council are doing. We're working with them on rare earths. I think making those facilities and some of that research available to new entrants, and then also funding the companies in such a way that they have time enough to get to a solution that they can present to the government of Kazakhstan, saying this is how we're going to unlock the value that you have in the ground for a particular resource.
Thank you, Conrad. One person who's been actually quite successful at both raising the funds and converting it to technology, but then also operating assets, it's Pini Althaus. Him and I have had the pleasure to work together. And as the only United States company operating in Kazakhstan around rare earth metals, what I'm hoping to be able to sort of comment a little bit is around your journey, the experience in Kazakhstan, aspirations, and how do you see this turning into a sustainable business? For many in the West, Kazakhstan remains a new country, so insights that you may be able to provide, I'm sure will be very valuable and maybe a guidepost for people to continue on their journey. So,
yeah, thank you, Yuri. Thank you, everyone, and to the organizers. So, as Yuri said, we're the first US company to enter into Kazakhstan to develop critical minerals assets. Not just rare earths, but materials like lithium, tantalum, niobium, cesium, rubidium, tin. So it's quite a first slate, and it has its challenges. We've been very pleasantly surprised by the welcoming that we've received in Kazakhstan. We first entered into the country in early 2023, and the timing couldn't have been better. The US and Kazakhstan had just announced a framework agreement to collaborate on the development of critical minerals. So under that framework, we entered into the market. And we're very grateful for the licenses that we've received from the ministry and with the assistance of Vice Minister Sharkhan. And we've got excellent joint venture partners like Talcon Samruk, Kaz Geology, the AIFC as well has been very instrumental, and Kazakh Invest. And we were able to secure our first licenses during the 2023 drilling season. So we started to do a lot of the preparation work for 2024 and successfully drilled 7,000 meters during the course of last year, and also did some drill site preparation for the 2025 season. And what we found is that across the board, there's been a very solid response and ongoing positive interaction with the government of Kazakhstan in terms of helping a company like us in a new jurisdiction, and obviously having concerns, prior to entering into Kazakhstan, not being familiar with the landscape there in terms of how things work internally, and President Tokayev's mining reforms. Again, the timing of that has been instrumental in enabling us to be successful, and we believe now that it's quite open and welcoming for countries from the United States and from the West, and especially in light of the I would say the difficulties in a country like the US obtaining critical minerals from Africa. We see the middle corridor countries, especially Kazakhstan, as a key potential supplier to the United States and to the West for critical minerals. And we've We will encourage it. We've been very encouraging of other companies that have spoken to us to enter the market. I mean, there are so many undeveloped resources in Kazakhstan. There are a lot of opportunities there, and we anticipate being there for quite some time in the future. And we do have the challenges of the downstream processing as well, which we were fortunate to develop a project in the United States first, and due to necessity, having to develop our own processing for metals and alloys, for rare earths, in particular for lithium, for magnet manufacturing, which we've just started to launch in the US as well. And one of the commitments we've made to Kazakhstan is to assist the country in developing a vertically integrated supply chain. So we're not looking sort of to take concentrates back to the US and leave little benefit to the host country itself. What we find is partnerships and helping the host country and recognizing what the host country is given in terms of its natural resources is important. So, for example, we've made an undertaking to employ or to bring in students from President Takayev's Bolshak Scholarship that are currently learning in different institutions around the world, including Colorado School of Mines, to bring them to our labs, to our facilities, to our mines, and to help with Kazakhstan building sort of their own or building on already what they have great internal expertise there, but continuing to build on that. And we look forward to further collaboration with the government and to bring prosperity both to our country, our company, and also to Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Pini. You've touched on a little bit around sort of the midstream and the downstream areas. And I think that it will be a very natural transition to hear a little bit from Vasileios. His firm largely specializes in midstream and downstream processing. How do you see Kazakhstan participating in this space? What do you think the future holds? And what are some of the decisions and the thought that they will need to decide on to be able to realize full potential?
Indeed. And I mean, first of all, thank you to the government of Kazakhstan for convening us today in this great, clearly packed room gathering. But more importantly, and this is Neo's first-hand experience with the government of Kazakhstan, is what happens before events and gatherings like this and after events and gatherings like this. And that is the government, when Neo tried to expand its feedstock and sourcing for its midstream and downstream operations in Europe and in Canada, the government of Kazakhstan immediately helped out to connect us with all the right people in Kazakhstan, with the companies, and facilitate the meaningful development of such supply chains. So we're very grateful for that. Neo Performance Materials is a proud Canadian global company. Rinaldo, we like to say, and we believe that we export Canadian values, whether it's on environmental and social and governance standards, but our growth, the cornerstone of our growth strategy going forward for the net zero transition and supplying the automotive industry in its transition from internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles is in Europe. And what I'd like to share, which is what really has, at least we think, needs to be in perspective of the competitive advantage of different jurisdictions that are partnering in trade and in supply chains. And that is that Europe is further ahead in automotive than other jurisdictions of the world, much like the US is as well, and China. But Europe is at the frontier of public policy development. Sometimes they overdo it. But the reality is that with the EU Critical Raw Materials Act, they developed the most innovative regulatory framework that sets targets for industry to source, as Madalena was saying earlier. And because of that, Neo invested and expanded its midstream facility and now into a downstream rare earth permanent magnet facility in the European Union. With that said, and the reason for that, a parenthesis, is that supply chains for automotive, if you look at the past 8 years, are formed by demand pull. If our customer wants us to build a plant close to them, we will build a plant to host them. But you can't choose where, as was said earlier, where the resource is, where the upstream is. And this is where Kazakhstan comes in, because it is endowed with great geological deposits. But more than that, it has a long history of metallurgical skills, a labor force that is developed and has so much more potential to develop its metallurgical skill set and can expand into the midstream even more than it already is. And when you think of jurisdictions, especially in the case of rare earths, or industries like the case of rare earths, where many ore bodies come with, the lanthanides come with the actinides too, in occurrence. And so when you're digging some types of heavy mineral sands or other ore bodies that have rare earths, they come with uranium, with thorium, actinium, and you need a jurisdiction that can not only just mine that, but know how to process it and store it responsibly. Outside of China and Russia, there aren't that many jurisdictions that can both do it and know how to do it and have been doing it, and do it responsibly and do it competitively. And Kazakhstan can do all three of them. Kazakhstan has the potential to be a leader in the rare earth industry, not just in mining, as these deposits are explored and developed, but also in acid leach cracking, which is the immediate step after mining, and then eventually grow into more midstream. And as far as the country and the investors go, I'm not surprised that Pini saw the opportunity and has attracted capital into Kazakhstan. And I'm sure that this is the beginning of many more investments, because the fundamentals are there for Kazakhstan to both trade and supply the EU and North America with semiconductor materials and with rare earth materials, with niobium, with tantalum, where there's already production, but even expand more into the midstream and downstream.
Thank you, Vasileios. Thank you for the audience. I hope you found that this discussion was interesting and insightful, potentially informing some of your choices as you're thinking about critical minerals and rare earth metals. I believe that the time that is allotted to us is finished, but I would very much like to thank our esteemed panelists for your time, contribution, and for sharing your insights with us.